Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was never a great athlete. And the reason for that was that I wasn't as strong and I wasn't as tall. And I didn't have the ability to do what many others of my gender were able to do. If we really cared about fairness in this room, we would acknowledge that where I went to school, there were women who could outrun 80% of the guys. If we really wanted to talk about fairness, let's talk about reorganizing sports into a co-ed discipline in which we find out who the fastest human being is and organizing races in heats of people of comparable ability. We'd still know who was the fastest. We'd still know whether a man was the fastest or a woman was the fastest. We'd still know all that. Come on. Locker rooms, that's a practical problem that can be solved without reference to transgender people. I realize that this isn't going to be taken seriously, but what I'm going to say next I hope will be taken seriously. I'm a pastor. And I have watched Christians across this country and in my state and my city constantly line up behind these kinds of anti-LGBTQ issue discussions. I have no idea where the church took the wrong turn in its history, but I will remind the representative who said that this is very unpopular with most Americans on this Ash Wednesday, that it would have been very unpopular to say, let's choose Jesus over Barabbas. The multitude argued in favor of crucifixion. I say this because I'm a pastor who is deeply pained by the fact that churches are somehow seen as the gatekeepers of morality in society, and that they exercise that gatekeeping function by deciding who's in and who's out. In case anyone studies the statistics, the churches are increasingly out. And one of the reasons they're popularly increasingly out is because we are no longer the ark that gives shelter to people whom others discriminate against, but we seem to feel that we can gain credibility by pointing fingers at people and arguing against them on very shoddy exegetical and theological grounds. My congregation for years has been putting up transgender youth and adults in our homes because they were kicked out by their families when they revealed to them who they believe themselves to be. This is an unacceptable problem. And we've now created a shelter that will go into effect in a couple of months in which these youth will actually have a safe place to go. We should be asking ourselves, to the extent that we call ourselves Christians, whether what we are doing here is decent or indecent. I make no presumptions about your faith. I realize we disagree in the church as much as everywhere else. But to the extent that you are following a Lord who accepted people who were fundamentally unaccepted by popular opinion, read your Gospels, you should at least make this more difficult on yourselves. That's all I have to say. I'm opposed to this bill.